It's Sunday, April 16th, 2017, and this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today we're joined by one of our mentors, Paul Hurwitz, Director of Active Analytics at Active Health Management, and he's going to lead a talk today on how to break into product management. So just let me briefly explain the format here today. The Product Mentor Program is a program that exists in over 20 countries around the world where we pair up mentors and mentees to make better products, better product people, and better product decisions. I choose the order differently each time. And so the people joining us today are mentors and mentees in the program. So very specifically, Paul is one of our mentors. Every one of our mentors leads a talk on an area that they're particularly expert in. So let me just quickly we'll do some quick introductions. I'll tell you guys a little bit more about how it works, and then we'll hand it over to Paul. So with that said, let me hand it over to Eric to just quickly introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself, and are you a mentor or a mentee?
Hey everyone, I'm Eric Yang. I'm currently a mentee in the program. I'm a product manager at a company called Media Radar.
Excellent. And I am Jeremy Horn, aka the product guy, and I'll be moderating here today. For those of you joining us, please post your questions at theproductmentor.com/live. Along the top of the screen, you'll see the video. Along the bottom, the questions. As long as the questions are topically relevant, I'll feed them over to Paul in fairly real time, so you get a real-time exchange there. For those questions that are more generic, perhaps, what is product management? Why am I here? Those types of questions, I will still ask Paul, but I'll wait until the end of the talk for the more generic sorts of questions. But with all of that said, I think it's time to hand it over to Paul to tell us how to break into product management. Paul?
Hi, thank you, Jeremy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Hurwitz, and as Jeremy said, I'm a Director of Active Analytics, which is a fancy way of saying that I'm a Director of Product at Active Health Management, which is a division of Aetna health insurance company. And today I'm going to be talking about how to break into product management and a little bit about my story in product management. I have been in different technology roles for about a little bit more than 15 years. I've been in product roles for 10 plus years, and my focus right now is anywhere really in the health tech space, whether it's digital health, healthcare tech, or any variation of that, which each label has its own connotation of where you're focusing. And all of my experience has been in B2B product management. I'm going to get into my story about how I broke into product management in a little bit, where I think it's particularly appropriate to share that during the talk. You might be asking yourself, why this presentation? Why would somebody in the Product Mentor program give this kind of a talk? Everybody here is a product manager already, right? Well, everybody who's in the program is, but not everybody who's attending the live stream is a product manager. So that's certainly one audience that I'm talking to. Is I'm guessing there might be some people who are attracted by this title, that they want to get into product management. But I'm also talking to the people who are already product managers, people who often get asked what a product manager is and or how to become a product manager, and to help give them specific advice when they're answering those questions. So hopefully people who are product managers will walk away with a few tidbits that they can share with people. Question of how to become a product manager all the time at many of the meetups that I attend around the city, including Jeremy's product group. And I meet people in all sorts of other different functions, whether it's biz dev, QA, developers, project managers are a lot of the people who want to break into product management. And they want to out there and ask all sorts of questions about along the way about breaking into product management. So what is a product manager? I'm not going to get into all the basics of what a product manager experience at LinkedIn is a perfect embodiment of what it really is. A great product manager has the brain of an engineer, the heart of a designer, and the speech of a diplomat. Or you'll hear me say a little bit later on, a person who can speak business and translate it into geek, and a person who can speak geek and translate it into business. if you're attending this, you already know probably a lot of the basics of product manager. A good product manager will be able to answer questions like, what is the market? Who are the users? What should we do next? What's the competition doing? And really the most basic of questions of what's the problem we're solving and what's the solution? A product manager is a person who bridges that gap between all these different areas of UX, tech, business. And business will include sales and marketing and account management and things like that. A product manager is usually someone who is an expert in their domain. I'm specifically in digital health, and there's some areas of digital health that I'm a pretty good expert in. Eric, who's attending, is an expert in ad tech and marketing tech stuff that he's working on. So usually that's the kind of a person who's there. And also a product manager is the champion of their product, its biggest advocate. Is going to go to the ends of the earth to speak for their product and to advance their product. And most importantly, a product manager is a person who is passionate about solving problems. So when someone asks me how to become a product manager, I usually start with asking them a question of, are you a curious person? A good product manager should be curious about everything. They should be curious about the technology used to build their product. They should be curious why a developer came up with a particular solution to a problem. But even further than just their own product, a product manager needs to be a curious person about their competition, about the industry, about technology, and about business in general. It's really, you got to be always wanting to learn. And like I said in the big quote here, product managers need to be able to teach themselves new domains and new skills and do it quickly. If you're a curious person and you're always looking to learn new things, that's going to come naturally to you. And that's the kind of person that you need to be if you're a product manager. Break into a role where, such as product management, where you have limited experience, then you have to make sure you know as much about product management as you can and the domain, and to keep up to date on the best practices in the field. And that's just something you got to always keep doing. So why do product managers get hired? They get hired for one of two reasons, usually. They're outliers, but really the two things are usually domain expertise and product management expertise. In my experience, that's the two things that companies always look for when they're hiring, is one of those two things. You either have domain expertise in the company's market, or you're an amazing product manager. Of course, every company wants a great product manager, but that isn't always the most important factor. If you know the industry, some are willing to hire a little bit more of a junior product manager and mentor them to become a better product person. And if they already know everything about the domain that they're working in. Sometimes, like and I'll give you an example in my company, we are a digital health company, a care management health care company. And there's some very senior people in the product organization that are nurses, doctors, pharmacists, health coaches, people who have been in their industry for a long time and really know the medical side of the business, and have switched over to come into the business side of business to be product managers at our company. So they've got a wealth of healthcare expertise, and they don't necessarily all of them have product management experience, but they learn that on the job because they have that domain expertise that the company is looking for. So when they're looking to become a product manager, that it's that exact split of domain expertise versus product management experience that I tell people to take advantage of. If you have extensive experience in a particular industry or domain, look for product manager jobs in that area. Demonstrate to hiring managers that you understand the industry and the problems facing it, and that could get your foot in the door. To give an example, I don't remember if it was at Product Group or another meetup around the city, I had a conversation with someone who has extensive experience in higher education admissions. and she had just finished General Assembly's product management class, a couple of months class, and I'll get into a little bit more about that later. And she wanted to get her first job in product management. So I told her to look for companies in ed tech, education tech, that needed her domain expertise. She took my advice, and not long after that, she got a job as a product manager at a leading provider of admissions software to higher education institutions around the world. So that she really took advantage of that domain expertise and grabbed. So there are a lot of things that you can do to learn product management. All of the domain experience in the world won't get you hired as a product manager, though, if you don't have the product management knowledge. You have to show to hiring managers that you have an understanding of product management best practices, even if you don't have experience as a PM. You can take advantage of your domain expertise, but if you can't show that you also know the fundamentals of product, then you're not going to make the cut. Just a moment ago, I mentioned in my example, General Assembly's product management class. There's also the product school, which has expanded to New York City. Both of these offer training on the fundamentals of product management. Learn a lot from them. I've sat in on some of their classes, and I've heard from some really great product people, but it's good to be cautious, though. Some of their instructors are great, and some of them aren't as great. So if you're going to invest in one of those courses, then you want to make sure you check the instructor out before you sign up. See if you can speak to people who have taken the class, maybe attend some of the product management meetups around the city, and see if you meet the instructors, and see if you can learn a little bit about them firsthand by just talking to them. Both of these places and others like them tend to overpromise a little bit on getting jobs in product upon completing the course that they have. But don't expect that it offers an automatic entry into the world of product management when you finish it. So you can learn a lot, but don't just assume you're going to automatically get a job afterwards. There are also some great workshops out there. Things like Product Camp, which is in cities around the world. They have one Saturday a year where you can just hear from all sorts of product people and learn that way. There's a Mine Product Conference, which is in San Francisco and somewhere in Europe once or twice a year. And then a brand new one that I really have just come across called Product Savvy, which is they're coming out with their own product boot camp. So again, same thing with any of these. You can learn a lot, but they're not going to guarantee you anything. There are lots of meetups around the city. In New York and around the world. The product group is in New York and in London. There are others, especially like Product Tank, which has product meetups around the world in different cities, and a lot of just general tech meetups that I attend that you can always learn a little bit about product from just about every talk that you attend. If you're listening to some tech startup talk about how they got started, you'll often hear them talking about the product issues that they were dealing with when they launched. Going to these meetups, that's like I said before about staying up to date on best practices and always knowing what's out there. 10 meetups all the time is a great way of hearing what people are doing and getting little tidbits and being able to stay up to date on how people are implementing product management best practices. I've listed here on this slide a few of the meetups that I attend on a regular basis around the city. The Product Group, Product Council NYC, Product Tank, Design Driven NYC is another great one. It's not product specific. And some others that, again, are not necessarily product specific. I attend a lot that are based on digital health and healthcare in general. So whatever your domain is, you don't want to attend just product management meetups. You want to attend meetups on your domain also. Attend conferences and workshops in your domain. So I'm attending healthcare related stuff all the time. And let's go to the next slide. There are also tons of online resources. You can find product management stuff on LinkedIn. There's a lot of good stuff there. Medium.com has a tag for product management, and that's become one of my go-to resources for new stuff and new writing about product management and about other things also. So there's a lot of online resources. Mindtheproduct.com is another great one. The Product Guy blog, Jeremy's blog, is another great place to get stuff from. The Twitter hashtag prod management is another great place to get stuff. And podcasts. There's some really good ones out there. The Everyday Innovator from Chad McAllister. This is Product Management from Alpha, which is a New York City-based group that does some great stuff in product management, and some really great thought leaders out there. People like Steve Johnson and Rich Mironov, who I've had the opportunity to have some amazing discussions with regarding product, and other people like Roman Pitchler, who has some great stuff. I really like his product vision board. For helping you articulate what your product vision is, whether it's a feature. I've been working with Eric, my mentee, this session on articulating whether it's a vision for your feature, your product, the whole company, whatever it is that you want to look at. It can be a really useful tool for doing that. There's a lot of other online resources out there. And other thought leaders out there. And it's really up to you, the aspiring product manager, to find the thought leaders that will help guide you in your career, and who sort of, you'll find the people who really speak to what it is that you're interested in. The ones that will hit the right chord with you, and you'll be able to get their take on what's the latest and greatest in product management. So what's the next step? Okay, I've talked about the difference between domain expertise and product management expertise. So how do you take it to the next step? So I usually tell people that the last piece of advice I give them when I'm talking is to give involved in product management functions in your current role. If you're a QA person, ask to sit in on some of the development meetings. If you're a developer, ask to sit in on some customer meetings. Read industry information and share it with your team. Do some competitive research and share that knowledge with others in your company. Do whatever you can to get involved in those that are usually product manager specific, but that you can get involved with. Ask the product manager if you can come with them to go meet a customer, and you'll learn loads about what the customers are looking for in your product and how they're using it. And whatever information that you can glean that you don't think anybody else has, whether it's some competitive research you did or some new industry information about new regulations or compliance things that are coming out, write a blog post up or a wiki up or even just an email and send it around to people in your company. Show people that you're interested in breaking beyond the four corners of your little box of whatever your role is. And do something practical with that information. Like I've been saying, write something up. And see if you can come up with some new user stories, or if you found defects, great, put those defects into the system. But see if you can find one thing that could make the product that much better because of some research you did or a customer meeting that you did or something like that. And it'll really show people, oh, this person's interested in product. Let's involve them maybe a little bit more. If you see any other things that are usually beyond your role, but that you can actually handle and that you could tackle, ask to work on it. Break out of that box a little bit. And then, all right, so how do you make the jump? You've done all of this stuff that I've spoken about so far. How do you actually make that jump into product management? In many cases, it can be much easier to transition to being a product manager within your current organization. You often can get that chance because you already know the product, you already know the company. Hopefully you've been doing some of the things that I spoke about in the last slide of attending customer meetings or doing industry research and showing people that you care about product and making it better. So oftentimes that's the easiest way. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a moment here. In other cases, a company might be too rigid in its roles. And you can't change from being a project manager to a product manager. You can't go from being a developer to being a product manager. Sometimes they're just too rigid, and a company like that, they just can't think outside the box and switch you into something new. Those often aren't the best companies to work for to begin with, but sometimes the case, and you just can't do it, in which case you do need to look for a product manager job in another company. And the only way I have found to find out what kind of company you're in is by looking around and seeing if other people have moved around the company. If you see people constantly are going from one department to another or one role to another, then you can tell that the company has a lot of positive thinking about helping people advance in their career and letting them go into a new role that's more interesting to them. So you can just tell that by looking around. And oftentimes the easiest way to get into product management is to look for a technical product manager role, or some companies nowadays even have a role called associate product manager. But back when I first got into product management, it was really technical product manager roles that were sort of the entry into product management. It was really a person who did a lot of the technical stuff of working with the development team and a little bit less of the business side of things. But it's sort of the entryway into product management where you can then grow into straddling the business and technical divide. I'm going to digress here for a moment because I think this is the perfect spot to talk about how I got into product management, and because it really applies directly to this slide. I made that jump within my company from being a technical jack of all trades into being a product manager. When I started at Centage Corporation, this was a long time ago. Longer ago than I care to remember. When I started at Centage, we were very much in startup mode. I was the third person in the company, and everything that we did in the company came straight from the founder. I started doing tech support there. I training and consulting team while I was there, and I started, after a few years, I started working with the dev team, doing a bunch of things there. Writing requirements, top-level tech support, product demos, QA, release engineering, and DevOps. Like I said, technical jack of all trades. Basically everything but writing code on the development team. And this role really turned into, without the title to go with it, being a technical product manager. But what really made the big difference for me was, unfortunately, the company hit a slump. We weren't growing. We were still very much in founders mode. And I realized that in order to get past that slump, past that plateau in sales, that we really needed to make a change in the company and start listening to our customers more. We needed to not just be doing what the founder wanted to do, but listening to what the customers were looking for. Anecdotally, I knew the features we needed to help us grow. Top features that were being requested by clients were in reality exactly the features that the founder of the company said we don't need. Our customers won't use those features. And I took that as a challenge from him to learn product management on my own and show the owner of the company why we needed these features. So I actually spent several months conducting surveys and talking with our most active customers, over 200 or 300 clients that I was talking to. And the data I collected started to grow into a top 10 list of the top features that we needed to be competitive in our space and what the users were really looking for in our product. And some of those top 10 features were the exact same features that our founder said we didn't need. Well, I just didn't like listening to him on that because I knew he was wrong. So I showed him the data that I had collected and convinced him he was wrong. And he looked at that and he's like, "You did 250 telephone calls? Okay, maybe I'm wrong here." I showed him the data, convinced him he was wrong, and faced with the facts that I had, I was able to tell him what our customers were saying. It wasn't just my opinion anymore. It was facts that I was working on. So I made the case that we needed a product manager, and he agreed, and I became the product manager. And 10 plus years later, I'm still a product manager. And once we made that switch, within 2 years after making that really a fundamental shift in how the company was thinking, when we made that shift, the closure rate on sales that we had went up by about 45%, and the actual revenue dollars amount went up corresponding, was a little bit lower than that, between 35 and 40% is what we had in an increase in revenue over the following 2 years. And that was, we had implemented, I think, 6 of those top 10 features in those 2 years, along with other things. It really made the difference, and that's where the company started to grow again. So the moral of that story that I was just telling you about how I transitioned into product management is, first of all, get involved in other things that you don't usually do. And get involved with all the different features, but also decisions need to be made with facts, not opinions. Your gut or intuition definitely comes into play sometimes. Don't discount your gut or your instinct when you're looking at how to solve something. But it's facts that, in the vast majority, your decisions need to be made based on facts, because fact evidence is going to stand up to scrutiny to other people in your company. If you start showing this data that you've collected to other people around the company, they're like, "Oh, you spoke to 250 clients? Okay, so we can't really discount that. But, oh, that's just kind of what your feeling is after talking to a few people on the phone?" That's not going to win. Use the facts. And as an aside to that, if you get into a discussion or an argument with your boss or another team lead or even the CEO of your company, when it comes to your opinion versus their opinion's going to win. No doubt about it. They're higher up than you, they're going to win. If it's your facts versus their opinion, your facts should win. And if they don't, it's a whole other problem, and you might want to think about going somewhere else. But usually the facts will win when it comes to that. So just to recap, the 2 main points of this slide is look for PM roles in your current company and possibly look for technical product manager roles at other companies that you can get into. So
we had a question that just came in, Paul, from someone who chose to remain anonymous. So I don't know who exactly is asking the question, but the question is, what were some of the resources you used while learning about product management?
So a lot of those resources that I mentioned earlier, especially the online resources, in my early days, I actually learned a lot from a group, Product Marketing. They do a certification. They have a 3-day course that you can take in product management. That's probably really what sort of jump-started my learning. But then I just took it along from there. I'm going to give you a huge plug to the Product Mentor program right now. But up in Boston, there's another great Product Mentor program with a group called the BPMA, the Boston Product Management Association. And I was accepted into that mentorship program as a mentee. And I was paired up with a global VP of product at a huge corporation. And that woman was definitely probably the biggest boost in learning about product management, was being able to discuss things with her and talk about product management. And she helped me steer me to a lot of the places that I now go to. But also, Steve Johnson and Rich Mironov are great thought leaders in the space. I've read a lot of what they've done. I've attended workshops given by both of them and learned a lot that way. So as a product manager, like I was talking about before, I'm a curious person. I like to learn new things on my own also. So I did a lot of online reading, a lot of reading books. Steve, I'm blanking on his last name. The guy who was it Sequent Learning Resources, Stephen Haynes. Stephen Haynes, read a couple of his books about product management. I've read Rich Mironov's book. So there's a lot of great stuff out there that I used, but it really was all on my own. The GA and product school didn't exist back then, at least not up in Boston for learning product management.
Cool. So that's all the questions we have at the moment. If you've got more, we're winding down the talk. So get them in quickly at theproductmentor.com/live. With that said, back to you, Paul.
Okay, great. So what do hiring managers want in a PM? What are they looking for? All right, now I've now given you some tips and tricks of how to do things, but what are they really looking for? When you update your resume, your LinkedIn profile, whatever the case might be, make sure that you highlight any new areas and tasks that you've gotten involved in that are typically only done by product managers, so that hiring managers see your interest and experience in product management. If you've attended a bunch of product and were able to write some blog posts about that, put that in there. That you were able to do customer feedback research and share that with the company. If you were able to come up with new solutions to problems that the company was looking to solve, do that. If you were able to be the catalyst for a new feature that became a big hit with the company, with the product and with its customers, get that into your resume. One thing that I would say that any hiring manager, whether it's in product management or in sales or in engineering or whatever the case might be, on your resume or in your LinkedIn profile, make sure that you're putting in results, not just things that you did. So if you were a salesperson and you were able to increase your own sales and therefore your company sales by X% over a 18-month period, put that X% in there. If you're a product manager and you were able to launch 3 products from scratch while at a company and bring them from wireframe to a delivered product, put that in. If you're a QA person or an engineer and you were able to put in all sorts of new testing protocols that brought down the number of defects found in the software, put that in there. People want to see that you've accomplished something, not just that you're a developer and you've written X number of lines of code or that you've been head of this team for whatever. They want to see things that you've accomplished. I spoke before about curiosity, that hiring managers want in a PM. They want curious people. So I'm not going to get into that again, but I will digress a little bit. And this is something that actually just came up at the product group this past Thursday night, a question that I had for somebody. If you're in domain, I used to be in budgeting and financial accounting software, and now I'm in digital health. Well, how did I make that jump from one domain to a vastly different domain? And the answer that I give to people is, when you're asked, well, you're in X domain, how are you going to learn this new domain? Usually what I tell people is talk about that curiosity and talk about how you're able to teach yourself new things. When I was looking to get into digital health, I was able to tell people, look, my undergrad degree was in marketing. My first job in out of college was in tech support. So everything that I knew about computers, I had taught myself. It wasn't from school. I had to teach myself accounting and budgeting practices while working at that company. And accounting was probably my least strong business course that I took in my undergraduate. So I really had to become an expert in accounting principles to work on that software. And we switched platforms from being on a database system to a new database system. As a tech support and IT person, I had to teach myself a whole database platform for the product. And then I taught myself product management. You get the idea. I was able to point out at each point in my career where I was able to teach myself something new. And so then when I got to digital health, they're like, oh, you can actually teach yourself things. Okay, fine. We'll give you that chance. So when a hiring manager asks you that question, that's the answer that I like to give them, and that's where curiosity can come up. Hiring product manager hiring managers, they also look for big picture thinkers. They want people who can think strategy, not just tactical. So that's a big area that you want to think about. Okay, how do I think about strategy? And there's so much stuff out there about strategy, and there's so many talks that have been given in the Product Mentor program on strategy that you can go back and listen to some of the earlier talks. So I won't get into that too much, but that they really are looking for people who can think about big picture and strategy.
So
and
Paul,
they're looking for product.
Paul, we just had a flood of questions come on in. So I definitely want to try to give you some of them. I might try to break it up a little bit. So the first question is from Star Trooper. Nice given name there. Talking about technical product managers, how do you crack a role if you have limited knowledge about the technology or programming languages the company is using?
So I came from an IT background and a tech support background. So I had that background in that. I don't think that product managers need to be people who are so technical in terms of knowing the actual programming language or knowing the ins and outs of the database platform or the server that you're using. But you have to about technology to talk intelligently with those people that are on the development team or the QA team or the infrastructure team. So it's a little bit of a hard question to answer. The more you can learn technology, the better, but I don't think you have to know it well enough to be a developer.
Another question from an anonymous individual. How can you steer your profile from pure software consulting to product management, especially when my company does not have any product management roles?
Well, I'll go back to the first thing that I said on the slide that I'm on, is make sure you highlight things in your LinkedIn profile or your resume that are usually done by a product manager in a software consulting role. I don't know if that means you're a developer or if that means you're just sort of like a strategy consultant. I don't know exactly where you're coming from with that title, but most likely as a software consultant, you've done a bunch of the stuff that a product manager would do. And assuming that's the case, then highlight those things. Highlight that you've spoken to users, that you're able to articulate what a product vision should be, what a product strategy should be, that you've written user stories, that you've helped launch a product, those kinds of things.
Excellent. Next question from another anonymous individual. My role in QA has been largely limited to our setup of manual testing. If I'm not particularly savvy at programming, how might I leverage a QA background?
Well, if you're doing a lot of manual testing, as opposed to automated, a lot of manual testing, you're using the software that you're testing. You're not just running a package that's going through a bunch of scripts to do things. You're actually running through it. So a good QA people that I've worked with, they have sat down with product people and business analysts, and sometimes even the people on the business side or customers, to really learn how they're using the software so that they can do those manual tests in the way that a real life user would use. Because automated testing is great for following a script. The way I see it, manual testing is really good at doing break testing. You're trying to use it the way that a user would to break it, to find where the problems are, in addition to confirming that things were done correctly. So hopefully that is stuff that you're doing. And if it is things that you're doing, then you have product knowledge from talking to the business side. You have maybe spoken to customers. You should understand the big picture of how the product is used by the customers. And that's the kind of information that I would highlight as a QA person.
That's a great point. So we do have more questions, but they're a little bit more generic or broader. So I'm going to save some of those questions till the end.
Okay.
But everyone, keep your questions coming into the productmentor.com/live, and back to Paul.
Okie dokie. Let me go back to sharing. There we go. Okay. So spoke about being a big picture thinker. I was just about to talk about product passion. Show a passion for products, so that when you're interviewing with a company, show that you've done some research on the company, that you know something about their product and how their users are using it. But more than just that, you want to just show that you're passionate about products in general. A common question that you get I haven't gotten it in a little while, but I used to get it all the time as in product management interviews, is to talk about any product that you're passionate about, whether it's theirs or the one that you're currently building, but it could be something that you customer of, and show that it's a product that you love and articulate what you love about it. My common answer usually was Dropbox. It just makes things so simple for sharing all my files amongst all my different platforms and having access to them from everywhere. So just show that you can be passionate about products. They're looking for domain experience, like I was talking about. So if you have that, definitely bring that up. Creativity sort of goes along with talking about strategy, but show that you can be a creative person in coming up with how to solve problems. Customer empathy. Certainly, if you've been in the domain and now you're switching over to product management, you can certainly take advantage of knowing what the customer is going through. But you want to be empathetic with the customer and what their problem is and how they're going to solve it with your product. And you want to have really good communication skills. That is something that is often very important in a product management role, whether it's for demos, whether it's doing analyst briefings, whether it's talking with customers, whatever the case might be. Just make sure you've got good communication skills. Another common question, I'll just take a little aside here. Another common question that you often get in product management interviews is, how would you build something? For example, one that I got recently was, we're building a 500-story building. Obviously, this is a fantasy, but we're building a 500-story building. How would you design the elevator system? A new garbage can for the city of New York. How would you go about designing it? The thing to keep in mind when you get a question like this is that there isn't one correct answer to this question. The interviewer is not looking for a product design spec. They want to hear how you think about the problem. How you're thinking about solving this issue. This is the time when thinking out loud is a good thing. They want to hear you ask questions about what the problem is, what the solution is. Like in this case of the elevator, the customer goal is getting to their floor in 5 minutes or less. So they want to hear you ask questions like that, who the users are. So in both examples, the person who's in the elevator is a user, or the person who's throwing garbage out is a user. But one that I missed when I got that question about garbage cans was, a user is also sometimes homeless people who go and collect cans and bottles from garbage cans to return to get money. And in fact, when the city designs garbage cans, they think about that because they want to make it so that people can get those cans out and recycle them, because that's less garbage that they have to collect. So those are the kinds of things they want you to think about. What are the needed features? They want to hear you think like a product person when you get a question like that. Anytime you get a question in interview, think about it as a product person. What's the problem that they're looking to solve, and think about it from that perspective, and you'll usually do pretty well with the question. Okay, so what to do when you're hired? You're lucky enough to gotten that break into product management. What do you do now? When you're interviewing for any role, not just product management, but anything, one of the questions you should ask in the interview is, what does 30, 90, or 100-day success look like? Or what does 1 year success look like? And whatever.
Hello, Paul?
Yeah.
All right.
Do
You
you have a
disappeared
question,
for us for a brief second. We lost maybe 15 seconds.
Oh, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen. Just your audio dropped out.
Oh, all right. So you can hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me, Jeremy?
Yes, we can.
All right, hang on one second. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear
Not
you.
really.
We can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so let me go back into sharing. There we go. Okay, so find out what that success for your role is, and make sure when you, on your first day of your new job, that you ask that same question again to make sure that things haven't changed since the interview. One of the things you also want to learn when you first start is learn the company strategy and the vision. You need to understand the company strategy and vision and how your product is meant to fulfill that vision. They haven't been articulated and written down in your company. Doing that should be your top priority. And I really like, as I mentioned before, Roman Pitchler's product vision board to help get through that and articulate what the vision of the company is. Be humble. Don't have an ego. Ask a lot of questions, do a lot of listening, and don't come in acting like you know everything. Assume that you know nothing and you want to learn from everybody that's there. And listening really carefully will earn you credibility with people. You want to meet with key stakeholders to learn as much as you can. Talk to some customers as quickly as you can. And you want to learn your product, obviously. So spend some time with it and meet the engineering team. A great line that I heard in a workshop with Rich Marinov is, be a mensch, not an MBA when it comes to meeting the engineering team. Let them know that you're their champion and that you're not going to try and run roughshod over them with promising way more than they can get done. So just make sure that they're friendly with you. Bring them some pizza and beer. They'll really like you that way. And understand the metrics that you're going to be measured on and that your product is going to be measured on. Make sure that you're measuring the right metrics and not the wrong ones. And you'll learn over time what those metrics need to be. But think about, when it comes to metrics, think about, yes, there's going to be some company internal metrics that you're going to get measured on, no doubt about it. But I like to look at metrics from the customer's point of view and measure it that way. Are you solving people's problems? How many conversions are you getting? How many times are people opening your app? Those kinds of things. Think about the metrics from a customer point of view to show you how successful you are. And of course, I always say, look for quick wins. Look for the low-hanging fruit that you can stuff accomplished quickly to show that you've learned something and that you can get stuff done. So that's the end of the presentation. I made my jump to product management about 10 years ago during a very long tenure with a company. I was there for about 12 years. I knew the products intimately. I knew my customers intimately and had been doing a lot of things that a product manager typically does in a startup. I just wasn't a product manager, but then I got that title. And I've enjoyed being in product management and being a product manager ever since. You can find me. Here's my email address, my LinkedIn profile, my Twitter handle. Feel free to contact me, and you can look at some of the stuff that I share on LinkedIn and on Twitter for learning about product management. That's about it.
Excellent. Now we got a lot of questions for you. So the first one I'm going to throw at you is from Alex. I've just been made product manager at the company. What should I focus on at this crucial time? I'm currently focusing on support, roadmap, and releases.
Okay, I'm actually having a little bit of trouble.
Uh-oh. Looks like the internet got Paul. We'll just give Paul just a moment to come back to us.
All right, Jeremy, I am back.
Yay!
I lost my connection. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, and I can hear you much better. All right, let's jump into questions.
All right, let me go back to that question one more time. This one's from Alex. I've just been made product manager at the company. What should I focus on at this crucial time? I'm currently focusing on support, roadmap, releases.
Well, I think that the first thing that you really need to focus on is speaking to customers and learning what the problems are that they're looking to solve with your product. I always think that's most important is really get a good understanding of the problem and what your product is supposed to be doing to solve it. And then also what do you need to do when you're first hired? Talk to stakeholders around the company, because even if you are even if you've been at your company for a while and you've gotten into a new role as a product manager, that's a brand new role. You need to start talking to other stakeholders now, and even the same ones from a different perspective to learn more about what you need to accomplish.
All right, and the next question comes from Mayank Kapoor. What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a product manager and still face?
Well, I think it depends upon the size of my biggest challenge right now, and I work for Active Health Management, is a division of Aetna health insurance company. So we are a company that's got 45,000 employees or so. So the big problem for me right now is the different product teams not talking to each other. When you're in a startup and it's one product, that's a totally different kind of thing. But in my company, we've got 15 different products that my division is working on, and none of the product teams work well together and play nicely in the sandbox. So for me, that's my biggest issue. Other people have different problems.
All right, and now the next question comes from Star Trooper again. A challenging question I received in a product management interview. How do you manage a whole product in a single spreadsheet?
You can't. I would say you absolutely cannot. Now, if you're talking about multiple tabs in a single workbook, then maybe we could talk something. But on a single tab in a single workbook, not possible.
It's an interesting constraint for an interview question.
Yeah.
I am so sorry.
I would say that the appropriate answer is you can't, and go into why you don't think you can.
The next question comes from Dana. And Dana asks, is there a certification I should get that would be helpful?
You know, I think 5 to 10 years ago, certification was a much bigger plus in product management, whether it was from Pragmatic or the AI, was it AI PMM or the 280 group. I think it's a lot less now, because I think product management as a function has matured. That people know what a product manager should be doing, usually, if they're looking to hire one, and they can vet the kind of things that they need to be doing without a certification. So that would be my answer on that.
And Dana had a follow-up question. What was they're just asking, what was the name of the 3-day course you mentioned earlier?
That was the Pragmatic Marketing Practical Product Management course.
All right.
I don't know if it even still exists. This was 10, 12 years ago. It
exists at least in some form today. I know that. So this one comes from Slim Shady. Wow, we're getting celebrities now. So the first part, let me read this. So I find, Slim Shady says, I find that the tougher challenge is going past the recruiter screening process rather than the actual interview, especially with software development background. So the question is, So how do you increase your odds of your resume being picked for additional processing?
I would absolutely 100% agree. Go read my LinkedIn post called "Don't Click the Apply Button" to get a full answer, a fuller answer to this question. But the way that really the answer to that is try to avoid the recruiters and the headhunters. If you know a company has an open role, then see if you can figure out who the hiring manager is and directly contact them, either with an email on LinkedIn, or if you can find a connection to that person or to somebody in the company through a friend or acquaintance or something like that on LinkedIn. That'll usually get you automatically past that first step of screening. And should get you at least a conversation or quick phone chat with the right person.
Yep, that's great advice. And that's all the questions we have right now. So I want to start to wrap up and say thank you to our speaker, Paul Hurwitz, Director of Active Analytics at Active Health Management, for today's discussion on how to break into product management. A lot of great questions, a lot of great answers. And also, as always, the presentation will be posted to our SlideShare channel. And a big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, to everyone else who joined us today in the Product Mentor. And don't forget, if you're interested in being a product mentor, just like Paul, to product people of all sorts all around the world, please visit theproductmentor.com and sign up today. And also, if you're looking to fill a new product job with a great product person, visit our very own free-for-all job board at theproductjobs.com. And with all that said, thank you guys, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.